In the early morning light, I sat at the kitchen table sipping coffee while my wife avoided my eyes. Her silence was loud, heavier than any argument we'd ever had. Finally, she spoke, her words as sharp as glass. "I don't love you anymore," she said, voice flat and steady, as if she had rehearsed the line. For a moment, the world stopped moving. My heart sank, but instead of exploding in anger or breaking down in tears, I simply looked at her and gave the calmest reply I could manage. "All right. Thank you for being honest." She blinked, surprised. I could see in her expression that she expected me to beg, shout, or fall apart. But I didn't. I just stood up, placed my cup in the sink, and walked upstairs without another word. Inside, I was bleeding, but I refused to let her see it. She wanted to break me, but I wouldn't give her that power. That day, I packed my things quietly. I didn't storm out, didn't fight for explanations. Instead, I left her with a note. "You'll understand my silence one day." It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. My plan for revenge had already begun to form, not through violence, not through shouting, but through success, something she never thought I was capable of achieving without her. I moved into a small apartment across town. It was nothing compared to the house we shared, but it was mine. At night, I worked on myself. I focused on my career, poured energy into projects I had been neglecting because of her constant criticisms. Every insult she had thrown at me, about being unambitious, about being too ordinary, became fuel for my determination. Months passed, and with each passing week, my efforts bore fruit. I launched a business idea that I had once hesitated to pursue. To my own surprise, it caught fire quickly. Clients came in, money followed, and respect grew. My calm reply that morning had given me the strength to cut emotional chains and focus entirely on building a life without her. Meanwhile, mutual friends told me bits and pieces about her life. She had moved in with someone she claimed was her real love. But whispers said things weren't as perfect as she had imagined. The man she left me for had a wandering eye, and their fights were loud enough that neighbors had started complaining. I didn't rejoice openly, but inside, I felt justice quietly unfolding. 6 months later, I received an invitation to a mutual friend's party. I knew she would be there, and I almost didn't go. But then I realized, this was the perfect stage. Not for confrontation, but for revelation. I dressed sharply, arrived with confidence, and walked into that room not as the broken man she left, but as someone she could no longer ignore. When she saw me, her face paled. I could see the conflict in her eyes, shock at how much I had changed, and perhaps regret that she had walked away. She tried to smile, but it faltered when she noticed the small crowd gathered around me, asking about my work, congratulating me on the success of my business. Later that night, she approached me when I was alone. "You seem different," she said, her voice hesitant. I smiled politely. "Yes," I replied calmly. "Life changes when you stop carrying what doesn't want to stay." Her eyes watered, and she whispered, "I made a mistake." Those were the words I had secretly longed to hear once, but now they didn't matter. My revenge wasn't about destroying her, it was about becoming untouchable in her eyes, proving that her rejection had no power over me. "I hope you find peace," I said softly, and then walked away, leaving her standing in silence. From that moment, she became a shadow in the background of my life. Friends told me she tried to reach out again, but I never responded. She had chosen her path, and I had chosen mine. My calm reply that morning wasn't just restraint, it was the spark that lit the fire of my transformation. In time, I bought a new house, larger and better than the one we once shared. I filled it not with bitterness but with achievements and people who truly valued me. Whenever I walked through its halls, I reminded myself that I had built this life from the ashes of her betrayal. My revenge was never about making her suffer directly. It was about showing her, and myself, that I could rise higher than she ever imagined. She had expected me to collapse without her love, but instead, I soared. That was the sweetest revenge of all. Looking back now, I don't see that morning as the end of my life but the beginning of it. She said she didn't love me, and I replied calmly. That reply didn't just change her perception, it changed everything about me. It was the quiet weapon that turned heartbreak into power. And though she might still regret her choice, I don't regret mine. I didn't need her love anymore. I had found something stronger, self-respect, success, and freedom. My calm revenge was simply living better than she ever thought I could. In the end, silence spoke louder than rage, and success proved sharper than any words of anger could. That was how my calm reply changed everything, and how it became the revenge she never saw coming.